I remember when I was in seminary learning Greek and Hebrew, the seminary made me learn. I taught myself HTML and CSS because I thought those were going to be necessary languages for the present and the future of the church. I'm not fluent in any of them anymore, but I know enough to parse a Hebrew root stem and work my way around a WordPress plugin if I need to. So I was just always interested in what technology made possible and how people could connect because of it.
Hello, my name is Hugh Plappert, and welcome to Church Tech Careers, where we go into the back office of ministry and learn how to uplift our church members and have an impact on our community through technology. And today's video is brought to you by PhoneLive.io. Well, with digital ministry and online presence these days, it's amazing what you can do. And our guest today works for a church in New York from Michigan. So we have an exciting podcast with us. Hello, my name is Hugh Plappert, and welcome to Church Tech Careers. Our guest today is Jim Keat, digital minister of Riverside Church in New York, New York. Well,
Hey,
welcome,
Hugh.
Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we are helping those that are looking at going into church tech or have started. And so let's go back to how you got started in the early days.
Oh, well, at Riverside, we've been playing in online spaces for a while, or just trying to lean into emerging communication platforms. Riverside is about 100 years old, 95, I think, as of this year, built in New York. John D. Rockefeller had his hand in getting it built up. So it's got a bit of a legacy. Martin Luther King would preach there every year or so. And for a while, we were the premier jazz radio station in Harlem in New York City. And the Riverside sermons would be put across WRVR there in New York. Riverside's sermons used to be published in the New York Times back when that was a thing that would happen. So finding ways to communicate in the ways people are engaging has always been, I think, what the church is called to do, and it's what Riverside has always been doing. So we've just naturally leaned into how do we put the entire worship service online? How do we innovate and be intentional in online spaces? So our live stream setup pre-pandemic was already a multi-camera setup in this ancient Gothic-looking cathedral, and we've just continued to lean into more ways to innovate not only the technology, but then how we engage congregants because what that technology allows.
So that's how the church got started, but you as a person, how did you get started in AV?
Oh, me individually. Oh, that's a whole other. We're going into therapy. I was born the same day as the first cell phone call. So me and the cell phone have literally grown up together. We're not sure which one caused the other to happen, but October 13th, 1983, Chicago, Illinois was the first commercial cell phone call, and Marshalltown, Iowa, I was born. So I've just grown up with that technology my whole life. I'm an elder millennial, a geriatric millennial. So I'm young enough to still remember life before there was an internet. I was a conscious child in the late 80s and early 90s when there was no such thing as the internet. And then I remember getting like AOL CDs, and all those things for chat rooms and seeing the internet become a thing and now what it is today. So for me, there was just the natural inclination to see it as an extension of just where people are. I remember when I was in seminary learning Greek and Hebrew, the seminary made me learn. I taught myself HTML and CSS because I thought those were going to be necessary languages for the present and the future of the church. I'm not fluent in any of them anymore, but I know enough to parse a Hebrew root stem and work my way around a WordPress plugin if I need to. So I was just always interested in what technology made possible and how people could connect because of it. So video was just fun, and then it became an extension of ministry. Audio was fun, and then it turns into collecting microphones and gear and road recorders and all the stuff. So it was more just, it felt like this is what it means to be alive in this moment. And then as I went through seminary in my life as a pastor, it just became a natural extension of what it meant to show up and do ministry where people are.
You are at the crossroads of a techie, and you also have seminary training and was a professor at once, right?
I've taught adjuncts as classes. So I only get professor when schools deem me an adjunct.
Yeah. So in digital ministry, you're kind of stepping out of the technology component per se, and you're using it for ministry. So what's your goal?
The goal, I think, is largely just to help people feel more connected. I mean, that has always been the purpose of technology. I remember when I was in undergrad, I was a music major for a hot minute. And my favorite part was when they brought us into the recording studio and taught us how to use the soundboard and all these things. Like, that's all it takes to make this thing work. And I think even something as simple as a church's PA system is designed to help people connect. It's to make this thing that might be less accessible more accessible, making sure the sound is clear and made possible. And I think all the things we're doing still are exactly that. None of us, I don't think, are trying to be Casey Neistat or Marquez Brownlee or some internet YouTube superstar. We're just trying to tools at our disposal, the tools at our disposal to make this work that we're called to do as meaningful and engaging as connecting as possible. It's really easy, and I'm someone who can become a bit of a gearhead because it's just fun to learn and collect stuff. But I have to remind myself the point isn't the toys, the point isn't the technology. The technology is a thing that enables people to connect with people. The camera is not just a robot I'm staring at, but it's a way in which I can actually connect with human beings on the other side, whether it's a recording, a Zoom call, a podcast, whatever it might be.
Digital ministry to me sounds exciting.
Yes.
Okay. But with every vocation, there are some challenging days. So, looking at the scope of digital ministry, what might have been a challenging situation that you had to navigate through? The good Lord helped you.
I think sometimes it can be, well, it can vary. Some of it could be how to help an individual who has just an experience that doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, whether that's a tech mishap, our end with what we're producing in a live stream or the content we're putting out there. But I think that's where I appreciate the way I get to engage in it. I've learned my way to navigate the tech side. I am not, a sound engineer by trade. I'm not a video editor by trade, but I can handle my way around a soundboard and I can put together a really good edit of a video. I can film it from start to finish. Well, what I hope to bring to it is that sense of person to person and pastoral sensibilities. So a challenge can be if the tech goes wrong, a person can be like, I can't hear, I can't see it. And it becomes frustrating for them in that moment. So how do you both solve the technical problem and then also be present in a personal and pastoral way? I think the challenge can be making sure you're doing them both and doing them both well. Sometimes we're easy to fix the tech glitch and forget about the personal touch, or we're quick to do the personal touch, but we might not be able to fix the tech glitch. And if you have to choose, that's probably the better way to go, to be a person with a person. Then they feel like they've been seen and heard and cared for in their moment of whatever. I mean, this happened to many of us when we were thrown into the deep end and learning what Zoom was back in 2020. And I'm sure still to this day, we have regular Zoom gatherings at Riverside. And so initially there was a lot of learning curve of how do you teach, especially at a church like Riverside, where we have a lot of older adult members. How do you teach a bunch of 65-year-olds how to use Zoom? Well, we got really good at doing a lot of onboarding sessions and working with demographics who might not be digital natives to really bring that person to person and pastoral connection to a world that might otherwise seem technologically difficult or inaccessible.
So, on the other extreme of the career, what is a event that may have happened in your career that you saw God's hand in it and you're really excited how God stepped in that situation and helped you?
Still in the digital space, or what's my scope of response here?
The digital space, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think I'll go back maybe to just March 16th, 2020, when our church and many others suddenly said, we're not having services the way we used to. And, for many churches, every church, that was a bit of a, unexpected slam on the brakes. We can't do things the way we were trained and knew how to do it. Not only the clergy, the pastors, the staff, but the congregation couldn't gather the way they were used to. And I'm grateful that I had been in my role at Riverside at that point for 3 or 4 years. I'd been leaning specifically into digital ministry as an exclusive area for over a year. We'd already had developed concepts for a virtual coffee hour long before anyone saw a pandemic coming. We'd already looked at ways that we could be intentional about engaging congregants who couldn't be present in the building. And so I think one way I would say I saw God present in that was the following the instincts and the intuition and the interests that I'd had prior to that moment, when a lot of people were like, oh, the internet's just a fad, right? That's not really a thing we need to play in. Church is all about just sitting in a chair or in a pew and being together in the building, right? I mean, yes, it's also about leaving the building, doing work in the world. But this online stuff was just seen as like marketing or for some people. But that moment, March 16th, 2020, when everyone was online only, and at Riverside, we were online only for a solid 18 months. I felt a good sense of gratefulness that the way in which God had prepared me leading up to that moment was able to meet such an intentional and necessary need that our community and many other communities had as well. So I'd say that for sure. And then even pivoting off of that, I began meeting regularly on Zoom with pastors from all across the country in that first, 12 to 18 months after that date to help talk through how do we do this together. So again, I'd say feeling grateful to see God at work in not only how I could show up for my community, but in the ways that we could come
Mhm.
together as colleagues and clergy across the country to learn these skills in the brave new world that we continue to find ourselves in.
You guys do obviously a lot of live streaming.
Yeah, our Sunday morning
Uh,
worship service is live streamed, and then we try to be really intentional about that, making that so it's not just peeking in through the window and watching church happen, but what is the actual experience of going to church when you're not in the church building? So there's a lot of little things that make a big difference that go into that from beginning to end.
could you maybe highlight some points on that?
Oh, absolutely. One thing we try to be aware of is, well, I mean, so the people leading from the room have to be aware that the only people in church aren't the people they can see with their eyes. So being aware that the seemingly lifeless cameras off to the side actually are your connection to a majority of the Sunday morning worshiping congregation. At Riverside, we consistently have 60% of our Sunday morning worshiping congregation outside of the building. They are from all across the country, around the world, joining us online. So the preacher and the worship leaders need to be sure to not be staring off to the wrong audience all the time, being aware of where all the people are. And then we do intentional things within the worship service itself. We always begin each worship service. The preacher has to come up with a question that kind of hold the themes of the day. And we ask that specifically to our online congregants so they can share it in the live chat in the worship service. We collect those answers. We also ask them where they're joining from, so we get kind of a general geographic region. We collect all of that, and then we pass it on to another clergy who's leading a portion in worship, the passing of the peace. And we'll say, today we're not only passing the peace here in the nave, but as far as Kentucky, California, Wisconsin, Washington, Mexico, Sweden, United Kingdom, we list the places people are as a couple of things. A, to show logistically how far this piece is being passed in that liturgical moment, but it's a way to let the people in those locations know we know you're with us. We just said Kentucky because Bob from Kentucky sent in that he's in Kentucky. And so he knows that we know he's with us. And it also is a reminder to the people in the room, you're not the only people in the room. There's a whole lot of people joining us for worship that you can't see because they're online and not on site. And then those questions, this kind of serves as a practical thing. During the passing of the peace, everyone's up and all the extroverts are running laps and shaking hands and peace be with you. There's always the logistical thing of how do you get everyone to sit down again? So the clergy person will say, as you return to your seats, let's hear some of the responses to today's questions. And then they repeat the question and they share some of the answers that congregants had put into the chat at the beginning of the worship service before the sermon. And we hear them on this side of the sermon, not all of them, usually 3 or 4, but it's a way of bringing the voices of online congregants in that moment, centering them in the space so we can all hear and engage with them. Those are things every single week, simple things. My other favorite one I have to mention is on a communion Sunday, which for us is the first Sunday of the month. We always have a Zoom space open. People are invited to share communion in their home however they can if they're by themselves, but we always have a Zoom space open that usually me or another clergy then is hosting, and we just share communion on Zoom together. We have a little potluck of what people are bringing. It lasts like 7 minutes, but everyone who participates, I think, will say those are some of the most significant 7 minutes of their month. Just what reminds us that even if you are worshiping by yourself online on a Sunday morning, moments like that remind you you are not alone. You are connected to so many people. So it's small things that I think have a significant impact just to make that Sunday morning experience so rich and robust. And then we have like Bible study before church on Zoom, virtual coffee hour after church on Zoom. So there's other ways people can connect and engage more directly and actively beyond just the live stream broadcast itself.
I was going to ask you next about some of the other creative uses of ministry outside the regular worship service.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it we lean into Sunday because that's where people are showing up. So we want to definitely give opportunities when there is that critical mass of participation. So we have a Bible study on Zoom every Sunday that often I'm facilitating. We have a digital ministry intern, a seminary intern who helps host it, or other clergy or congregants. And then my favorite, though, is every Sunday after worship, we have virtual coffee hour, which is, just on a Zoom call, basically, for online congregants that get to connect with one another. And we've been doing this every single Sunday since March 16th, 2020. We've been having a virtual coffee hour. Back then, when it was everyone in the whole church online, there'd be, a whole lot of people on Zoom. But now there's still a really strong, growing, and consistent group of people from all across the country. I know I'm going to see Stephen down in North Carolina, and Ronald down in Austin, and Betty up in Washington Heights, and Bill up in California. And I'm gonna see people in Wisconsin and Ohio and Florida, all online for this space together, just to check in, to see how we're doing, to connect with one another, to share updates from our lives, to reflect on the worship service we just experienced. And then the absolute favorite thing about it is we have a laptop set up in the robing room. So the preacher, after she's done shaking hands at the back of the nave, she just walks over to the robing room and then she's on Zoom with us and we get to talk. It's typically our senior minister. So our online congregation gets to spend a half hour every Sunday talking with the preacher about the sermon they just heard, which becomes a way of not only going deeper with the content and the experience we just had, but it deepens the connection with our pastor as well. So to me, that's where the tools are fun. The toys are great to help broadcast and create fun things. I love it. Give me a good camera and a day, and I'll have a lot of fun making a fun video. But the real purpose of it all is the connection. And so it's moments when our senior minister feels a close, deep connection with congregants from all over the country. Even if they can never show up in the building, she still knows them by name and by face, and they know her. So allowing for the technology to make connection with one another, with our clergy, in the ways we connect with God and the world around us, that to me is what makes it really, really meaningful and special.
Ministry is built on money. We don't love money, that's the root of evil, right? But it takes money. So how do you balance the budget limitations and keeping up with the equipment and the cost of running?
Great question. Yeah. So at Riverside, our tech side of things is run. We have a whole staff that manages the tech side of things, and they live at Riverside within our rentals structure because our building is often used as a rental space for a lot of public events. We're near a lot of colleges in New York. Other major events will use our space, and so a lot of them want to be, they need audio and video as part of their events. So a lot of the work that's done is built into that infrastructure, which helps support the work of the church overall. I think one thing I like is being able to do things really simply too. The beauty of, I think, digital side of things is all I need is a Zoom account and I can do pretty much most of the ministry I need to do. And then, above and beyond that, give me my cell phone and I can probably make almost every piece of content I make just on this. I mean, I've got, where's it at? It's somewhere on here. I got bigger, fancier cameras. Oh, it's in a bag upstairs, and I'm filming on one right now for this call, and I got, microphones. So it's fun to have gear, but I don't need it. And I don't feel the need that I have to have the latest everything. Like I got like a 4-year-old 360 camera that I use once a year. Yeah, I know the new ones are out, but I don't use this on a regular basis to even need the new one. So I think it's just recognizing how can things be as nimble as possible, and the typical overhead costs that might impact other ministry areas, meals or needing certain space to have ministry happen in. The beauty of digital ministry is it happens where people are, as people are, and as long as you can use technology to help them connect as easily as possible, it often is fairly cost efficient. Really, a cell phone and a Zoom call, I think a cell phone and a Zoom account is what most pastors need to do really rich and robust digital ministry in a lot of capacities.
Very, very good. So where do you get training from to stay on top of everything?
I just watch a lot of YouTube videos, I guess. That's a good question. They're definitely, this was a lot of stuff I was not taught in seminary, that's for sure. It's just always been an interest. So I think I am well trained as a theologian and a pastor, and I am self-trained as a, technologist and media enthusiast. So I think it is just staying connected. I'm a part of a lot of different digital ministry cohorts that I've convened, and among peers, among other pastors who want to learn. So that forces me to stay up on what's happening in various platforms and spaces. I'm just naturally curious about them all. I want to dip my toe in and see what's out there and what's emerging and what's next. And I hope to temper it with the necessity of not doing all the things, because you can't ever do all the things. The minute you try to do everything, you end up doing mostly nothing. And I want to be intentional about what I'm using and why and how. But I definitely try to surround myself with other colleagues who are doing similar work to learn from them. I try to reverse engineer what I see. Like, how did they make that video? How did they produce that event? Let me try to talk to the person directly or just dissect it myself, and then not be afraid to try and maybe even fail in public. It's never ideal to learn to ride the bike in front of a crowd, but sometimes that's what this work is called to, and just being okay with a glitch here and there and recognizing any attempt is never your last attempt.
Do you attend any of the AV or IT church conferences?
Probably not, because my role leans into some awareness of the technology, but I really try to lean more into the ministerial application of it. So I'm less concerned about knowing what's the newest sound mixer that's out there, and more concerned with knowing how can I facilitate the best possible experience for someone who's in Northern California, South Florida, mid Texas, with ages ranging from 40 to 70. So I'm interested in some of those, especially as they're able to be done online to know the latest releases. I'm definitely reading, every release note that Zoom sends out. When are they going to release the next new features? So that's probably where I'd lean into, just trying to stay educated on a technological side of things.
Keys are a lot of times introverts, right?
Yeah.
But when you take technology and you plug it into a church, you've got to deal with a board, you got to deal with ministers, you got to deal with congregants, you got to deal with the team if you're a bigger group. What kind of people skills do you use to keep things being successful?
Yeah, I mean, that's one benefit I have is I definitely veer to the extrovert side of that spectrum, and then my training as a pastor helps me know how to navigate those things. That's some of what I was trained for, is recognizing dealing with congregants of varying interests and abilities, and how do you involve them along the way. Working with teams collaboratively, working with church councils and boards and those things. So those are things that I do feel versed in. A lot of it is just, I think, consistent and clear communication, letting people know not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it. It's coming down to the purpose of this. We're not just live streaming because it's fun. It's because there are actual human beings on the other side. That this work matters not just because we decided to do it, but here's the impact it's actually having. So I think whatever the range of it, it's letting the person who's running the soundboard, the chair of church council, who might be, the top chair with the senior pastor to approve a budget, making sure they all know the why behind the what of this digital ministry. It was very beneficial, I think, and many churches might have this experience where we all had a good solid amount of time when we were in the seat of a digital congregant. I encourage any church who has an intentional digital ministry presence or live streams their worship service. I think every leader in that church, at least once a quarter, I'd say once a month if possible, should attend their church service online, just to know what it's like sitting in that seat. What is the experience for someone online? My hunch is that if a senior pastor spends one Sunday a quarter in the digital congregant seat, they will quickly realize what works and what doesn't work. And the next time they're standing up front in front of the congregation, they are going to be more greatly aware of how to engage those online congregants as well as the on-site ones. So that'd be some of how I hope to work with people and how to think through those things.
We have to bring up this question. In your live streaming, you use Phone Live as an accessibility channel. How successful has that been, and why should a church consider having an accessibility channel? Because can't everybody watch the stream?
Okay, I love what you all provide. We found you, I think, probably in mid to late 2020, and we just will never stop. So we ran into this problem of, we had, especially in 2020, 2021, but it's still to this day, older adult congregants who are unable to make it to the church. They've moved away for whatever reason. They want to stay connected, and they don't have internet connection, or it's not available to them. It's not part of their life. They just don't have the ability. When we say just watch the live stream, that's not an option for everybody. It's an option for a lot of people, but we recognize there are actual human beings, and the point of this technology is to connect with human beings who just can't access it in that way. So what you all provide with your service has made it so easy for us to connect our live stream through, we use Restream to split it into different places, and then one of them goes to your service. So it makes it so that a congregant can call the number, or literally my favorite is get a phone call when church is starting, and then they just pick
Right.
up their landline. And yes, what I wish they could see the experience, that might be a little more engaging. But this is where it's like, if I have to choose between them having nothing at all or at least listening to the conversation on the phone, that is a point of connection that for that person brings them closer to their congregation, to God, to the world we're living in. And it's so simple. The fact that it can literally be pick up your phone, church is calling, is probably my favorite thing about it from an accessibility point of view. It just happens. It's here. It's just a weekly reminder, and you can just pick it up and be present. Oh, it's so, I haven't seen a service like yours, and I'm so grateful it exists.
Right. Actually, 30% of Americans cannot watch your live stream.
Wow. Wow. So we
And,
need services like this for that reason.
right, in metropolitan areas, usually it's over 20%, where you'd think it wouldn't be. We connect about 20,000 people every Sunday to their local services.
And it's literally the simplest way. It's like the lowest common denominator of pick up the phone. Whether you have a cell phone or a landline phone, anyone can do. That's what I love. There's no how do
Yep.
I find the YouTube channel, the website, how do I get my TV? It's call this number or Pick up the phone. Church is calling. Hello, God, it's
Right.
me.
It's funny how backwards it is. And there's no software to install
No.
on their phone because it could be a phone on the wall. And there's no software to install on the church side. You just use the RTP code like you would go to Facebook, and it's ready to go. So I appreciate you working with us on that and being partners in ministry. So when you wake up in the morning, what is your passion that drives you to work?
Oh, well, when I wake up in the morning, it's usually, are the kids awake yet? I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I love st- lately it's been this. I'd say getting to try new things and seeing them reach new people. And that literally has been as simple as we've been doing a Wednesday afternoon 30-minute Bible study that I'm hosting using this Bible in a Minute short form video content we're producing. We're going through the entire Bible every day, one chapter at a time, 1 minute long, which is a fun project. But we're repurposing that into a short 30-minute Bible study. And so I've been leading that on Zoom every Wednesday. And every week, I'm seeing new people from our online congregation that I've never seen before because they're watching, they're participating. So I think what wakes me up is knowing the work I'm doing can connect with real people, and having the opportunity to get to know their names and their faces is just such an incredible boost. It's not just for the views or the algorithms or the likes. It's for Bill, it's for Lavanya, it's for these actual human beings that I have the opportunity to meet. And the simplest thing, like a 30-minute Bible study on Zoom, makes it possible to actually meet them and offer them something that they need in that moment. I think that's probably a summary of what wakes me up every morning.
Wow. So you have a number of resources. So you kind of have a YouTube or podcast channel.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel on digital ministry. I think it's just digital minister. JimKeat.com is the website that I have that kind of is a parking lot of all my projects. But there's a Substack and a YouTube channel that's focused specifically on digital ministry tips, where I get to talk about a lot of this stuff as resources to others. And then obviously that also links at my website to all the work at Riverside, which has a lot of examples. So I love making the toys for others, like giving the resources away. And then I love playing with them. I love trying it out in a local church setting. So a lot of my work is getting to do the work at Riverside and then also learn from and share the best tips with other churches broadly as possible.
Thank you so much for that. This is really exciting. For the folks listening, if they wanted to reach out and connect with you, hiding out there in Michigan, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
Oh, I think everything's on the website, jimkeat.com, JIMKEAT.com. Should have contact info and all the ways to get in touch.
Thank you so much for your time today, and God bless you and your family.
Thanks, you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We appreciate you leaving a review, liking, and sharing this podcast wherever you have joined us. I'm looking forward to next week here on Church Tech's Careers as we navigate the back office of ministry and how we can have an impact on our community and uplift the members of our local church. And today's video is brought to you by PhoneLive.io.